Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins and numismatic treasures, where everyday pocket change can sometimes hold hidden fortunes. And in this story we are going to unravel the mystery and allure behind the 1987 quarter-dollar coin. A coin that has shocked collectors and experts alike with stories of specimens being valued at an astonishing $59 million due to the extraordinary and rare errors and mistakes that can be found on them, making what appears to be an ordinary Denver minted Washington quarter from 1987 into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery worth a fortune. So let's begin by considering how coins that were produced in the hundreds of millions could possibly harbor varieties so rare and dramatic that they command such astronomical prices. And the answer lies in the delicate process of minting, where the tiniest mistake can create a unique anomaly, turning a common coin into a treasure trove. And when we speak about the 1987 quarter, we must first set the stage with a brief overview of its context. Minted in Denver with a mintage of over 655 million, a coin that by all appearances was just another Washington quarter with the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse, struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition, not made of silver, and intended for circulation. But what separates a run-of-the-mill coin from one that makes headlines is the occurrence of rare mint errors, die varieties, planchet mistakes, striking anomalies, and other numismatic oddities that transform a simple coin into an artifact of immense intrigue and desirability. And when we focus on the 1987 quarter, we find that several categories of errors could contribute to its immense value, such as double die obverse errors where the details of Washington's portrait, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the date itself appear double due to a misalignment in the hubbing process, which creates a strikingly visible doubling that collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums to obtain. Then there are off-center strikes where the coin is struck outside of its intended collar, and the design appears shifted, sometimes so extreme that parts of the design are missing while still retaining a full date, a kind of rarity that commands 6 or even 7 figures at auction. And in the case of the 1987 there are documented examples where these off-center errors are so dramatic that they become showpieces in error collections. Another fascinating possibility that could contribute to a multi-million-dollar valuation is a wrong planchet error, where the coin was struck not on a quarter planchet but on the wrong metal blank intended for another denomination. And in the 1980s such mix-ups occasionally happened, with quarters being struck on nickel, penny, or even foreign coin blanks. And a 1987 struck on a wrong planchet not only becomes rare but, depending on the metal composition, can become uniquely valuable. Then we have clipped planchet errors where part of the coin's edge appears to be missing due to an improperly cut blank, creating a crescent-shaped clip that collectors chase after. And when such an error coincides with a full visible date and mint-mark, it becomes even more desirable. As for die cracks and cuds, these are caused by the gradual deterioration of dies where cracks form in the hardened steel and transfer onto the coin's surface as raised lines or chunks of missing design. And when these die breaks become large enough, they can result in a dramatic cut error where part of the design is completely obliterated and replaced by a raised blank blob. And 1987 quarters with large die cuts on Washington's portrait or on the eagle are considered highly collectible. Another major error type to consider is the multiple strike error, where the coin is struck more than once, either with a rotated die or without being ejected properly, resulting in overlapping images that almost look like ghostly shadows on the coin. And such coins can easily fetch millions if they are dramatic enough. Then there is the possibility of transitional errors, where a coin was struck with the wrong year's design or with an outdated die. And while 1987 was not a transition year for quarter designs, the chance of a leftover die being used or a mule error occurring, where two mismatched dies were paired together, creates one of the most valuable and intriguing types of errors in numismatics, as mule coins are among the rarest of the rare, commanding record-breaking prices. And imagine a 1987 quarter struck with a reverse meant for another denomination. This would explain why collectors and auction houses have placed such astronomical values on surviving specimens. We also must consider the role of condition, as a mint era coin not only becomes valuable due to the mistake but also dramatically increases in value if it remains in mint state condition with sharp details, brilliant luster, and no signs of circulation, and for a coin like the 1987 D quarter to be valued at $59 million, it likely is a combination of the most spectacular error types preserved in nearly flawless condition, creating a perfect storm of rarity, demand, and desirability. And when we think about the allure of such coins, it is important to recognize how they capture the imagination of collectors, because a coin like this is not just about the metal it is struck on, but about the story it carries, a story of a rare accident in the minting process, of survival against the odds, of being noticed by someone who recognized its significance rather than spending it as ordinary change, and of being passed through the numismatic community until its value skyrocketed. And let's not forget the psychological thrill for collectors who dream of finding one of these legendary coins in their pocket change, because the idea that a small, everyday object could secretly be worth millions taps into the treasure hunter spirit inside all of us. And so when experts describe the 1987 D quarter dollar as being worth $59 million, they are not just referencing its intrinsic qualities but also its symbolic power as one of the rarest and most desirable mint-era coins in American history, fueling bidding wars at elite auctions, sparking endless discussions among collectors, and inspiring countless searches through old jars of coins. Now let's break down a few hypothetical but very plausible scenarios that could explain such a valuation. For example, imagine a 1987 D quarter struck as a double denomination error on top of a previously struck dime, creating a coin with two designs in one, which is an incredibly rare type of error that has sold for millions in other denominations. Or picture a spectacular full brokerage error where one coin was struck onto another, leaving behind a mirror image design on one side, an error so dramatic that collectors view it as art. Or think about the possibility of a coin struck in gold or silver planchets accidentally fed into the presses at Denver in 1987, something that would have bypassed quality control and created a unique and precious rarity. Then there are rotated die errors where the obverse and reverse are misaligned, giving the coin an unusual twist, and while common rotated dies are not worth millions, an extreme rotation combined with other factors could create a once-in-history coin. Furthermore, we must acknowledge how provenance and historical significance add layers of value, because if a coin has an extraordinary story, if it was once part of a famous collection, if it appeared in numismatic literature, or if it set a record at auction, then its prestige multiplies, and this prestige adds directly to its price. So when we talk about the 1987 D quarter being worth $59 million, we are really exploring the culmination of multiple factors: the rarity of the mint era, the condition of the coin, the demand among elite collectors, and the narrative power that turns it into a legendary piece. And for those watching this who might now be checking their own change jars, remember that while most 1987 D quarters are common, it is the hunt for that one extraordinary example that makes the hobby so exciting. And who knows, you might come across one with doubling, off-center strike, a cud, or even more spectacular, an unknown Neil era waiting to be discovered. And it is precisely this possibility, the idea that treasures may still be out there in circulation, that keeps the world of coin collecting vibrant and alive. So as we continue exploring the legacy of this remarkable coin, we realize that its story is not only about value in dollars but about the passion of numismatics, the meticulous eye of collectors, and the marvel of human error transforming into human wonder. And it serves as a reminder that even in our fast-paced digital world, tangible objects like coins continue to connect us to history, art, and the thrill of discovery, making the 1987 D quarter dollar coin not just an error but a masterpiece of chance. And so as we close this incredible journey into the heart of numismatic rarity, I invite you to imagine the possibilities lying hidden in your pocket, your purse, or your drawer of old coins. Next, 1987 P quarter dollar coin, today's exciting journey into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures, where we take something as ordinary as a $quarter coin and reveal how mistakes, errors, and quirks in production can transform it into something extraordinary. And today we are diving deep into the story of the 1987 P quarter dollar coin. A coin that at first glance looks just like any other pocket change you might overlook or toss into a jar, but under the microscope of numismatics and collectors' enthusiasm, This seemingly simple coin has been rumored to carry a staggering value of up to $27 million because of the errors, mistakes, and remarkable oddities that surround it, making it one of those unbelievable cases where minting imperfections elevate a small piece of metal into an item worth big money. So as you sit back and enjoy this story, let us unravel the countless factors, historical context, minting conditions, and intriguing era varieties that make the 1987 P quarter such a fascinating topic for collectors and enthusiasts all over the world. And by the time you reach the end of this exploration, you might find yourself checking your loose change a little more carefully, because you never know when fortune could be hiding right in the palm of your hand. Now, the first thing to understand is the context of the 1987 P quarter. Minted at the Philadelphia Mint, where the P mint mark denotes its origin, and that year was not marked by anything particularly unusual in American history at large, but within the production lines of coinage, it became an interesting chapter. The Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters, but sheer volume often increases the likelihood of mistakes, and the 1987 P quarter became a case study in how small mishaps can lead to unimaginable future value. One of the key error categories collectors seek in the 1987 P quarter revolves around die errors, and these occur when the dies used to strike coins are damaged, misaligned, or improperly maintained. For example, some quarters from this year show evidence of doubled dies, where the inscriptions or designs appear doubled due to a misalignment in the striking process. Such coins immediately become rare because they are not supposed to leave the mint that way, yet somehow a handful escaped into circulation, and the thrill of finding one is like striking gold. Another error that makes the 1987 P quarter so highly sought after is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet, the round disc before it is struck into a coin, is not properly seated in the press, causing the design to be imprinted off-center, sometimes just slightly, sometimes dramatically, and depending on the degree of the misalignment, the value can skyrocket. Collectors prize coins that still show the full date and mint mark despite being way off-center. And when you combine that with the popularity of quarters in general, the desirability goes through the roof. There are also instances of broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without the restraining collar in place, causing the metal to expand outward and give the coin a flattened, wider look, and such pieces, especially when tied to a specific year like 1987, become instant rarities. And then there are planchet errors, which occur before the striking even begins, such as when a coin is struck on the wrong metal, for example a quarter mistakenly struck on a dime planchet, or a foreign coin blank. And with the 1987 P quarter there are stories of transitional errors and off-metal strikes that create some of the rarest and most valuable specimens, worth tens of thousands, or even millions depending on condition. Add to this the possibility of clipped planchets where a portion of the coin is missing due to a blank overlapping during cutting, and suddenly the 1987 P quarter becomes a minefield of possibilities, each mistake telling a story of how industrial machinery, human oversight, and sheer chance can intersect to create rarity. And it is these stories that fuel collector demand and push values to astronomical levels. So when we hear about a single 1987 P quarter fetching as much as $27 million in theoretical or rumored valuations, it is not just because of one error but the combination of multiple spectacular features, condition, rarity, provenance, and the fever of auction bidding that can sometimes defy logic. But let's go deeper into specific known varieties and why they fascinate experts. For instance, the doubled die obverse quarters from this year can show doubling in the word liberty or the date 1987, and under magnification this doubling is clear and undeniable, making such coins far more desirable than their common counterparts. Then you have the rare die cracks, where breaks in the die cause raised lines on the surface of the coin, creating unique patterns almost like veins running through the design, and some collectors actually assign nicknames to these dramatic cracks, treating them almost like natural art pieces. And if you imagine finding a 1987 P quarter with a massive die crack across Washington's portrait, you can see why it becomes an instant talking point. And another phenomenon that affects this coin is the strike-through error, where foreign material like grease, cloth, or debris gets between the die and the blank during striking, leaving out impressions or missing design elements. Sometimes entire letters or features can vanish, and these coins often look like misprints, making them intriguing to anyone who stumbles across them. Grease-filled dies are another subset of this, where coins come out missing parts of their design due to clogging, and these too can command premiums. But beyond the minting process itself, the condition of a 1987 p-quarter plays a crucial role in its valuation. Because even a rare error coin loses much of its appeal if it is badly worn, scratched, or damaged. And so collectors are always hunting for high-grade examples, coins that have survived decades without much circulation, often graded by professional services as mint state or higher. And when you combine high grade with rare errors, the price can soar into unbelievable territory. And then there is the collector psychology that drives values skyward, because rarity alone does not set prices, it is the demand, the excitement, the sense of owning something unique that pushes bids higher and higher at auctions. And sometimes wealthy collectors with deep pockets compete for the bragging rights of owning a one-of-a-kind coin, and suddenly a coin that might be worth thousands on paper sells for millions in practice. And with the 1987 p-quarter, stories of astronomical sales have only fueled the hype further, leading many to believe that one special specimen could be valued as high as $27 million. So imagine for a moment holding what looks like an ordinary 25-cent piece, only to discover under closer inspection that it contains a double strike, an off-center error, perhaps struck on the wrong planchet, with die cracks crisscrossing Washington's face, and preserved in brilliant uncirculated condition. And then picture that coin at auction with collectors from around the world fighting to own it, the price climbing higher and higher until it reaches sums most people only dream of. And that is the magic of numismatics, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary, and the 1987 p-quarter is a shining example of this transformation. And if we take a moment to reflect on why coins like this matter, it is not just about money, it is about history, chance, craftsmanship, and the human tendency to assign meaning and value to imperfection, because in a world where perfection is mass-produced, it is the flaws that make something truly unique. And when those flaws happen to appear on a coin minted by one of the most important institutions in America, they become part of a larger narrative, a story that collectors cherish, study, and preserve, ensuring that these coins live on as artifacts of both error and excellence. And as we wrap this exploration, remember that while most 1987 p-quarters you find in your pocket change are worth only face value, the possibility exists that one extraordinary piece could be hiding among them. And that possibility is what makes coin collecting such a thrilling pursuit, because you never know when you might stumble upon a life-changing discovery. So keep your eyes open, check your coins carefully, and who knows, maybe you will be the one to uncover the next multimillion-dollar treasure. And with that thought, thank you for joining this deep dive into the mysterious and exciting world of the 1987 p-quarter dollar, a coin that proves even the smallest things can hold the greatest surprises. And if you enjoyed this journey into numismatic wonders, make sure to stay connected with us for more stories of hidden treasures and incredible finds, because there are countless more coins with secrets waiting to be revealed, and you won't want to miss a single one. Next, 1977 quarter dollar coin. Today on this incredible journey into the fascinating world of rare coins, numismatic history, and the hidden treasures that might be sitting unnoticed in someone's pocket change. Because in this video we are going to explore the amazing and almost unbelievable story of the 1977 quarter dollar coin that has been valued as high as $43 million due to its rare errors, striking mistakes, and the possibilities that make it one of the most intriguing coins in American history. A coin that at first glance looks like an ordinary piece of circulating currency, but once examined more closely reveals layers of uniqueness, hidden errors, and minting anomalies that catapult its worth far beyond the 25 cents it was originally intended to represent, making it the stuff of legend among collectors and investors alike. And as we dive into this journey, we will not only uncover the details of these fascinating errors, but also paint a picture of how a small oversight or accident in a minting facility can transform a seemingly ordinary coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that collectors will fight over at auctions, driving the value to staggering heights. And the story of the 1977 quarter is no exception, as it is tied to the Philadelphia Mint, where millions of quarters were produced in that year. Yet among those common coins a few slipped through with rare errors that today are regarded as treasures worth tens of millions, starting with double die errors where the design elements such as the word liberty, or the motto I in God we trust, or even the date itself appear doubled due to slight misalignments during the hubbing process. And when these doubling effects are dramatic, they become incredibly valuable because collectors know just how scarce such misstruck coins are. And another error possibility comes from planchet mistakes, where the blank metal discs intended for quarters were improperly prepared, sometimes struck on planchets meant for other denominations like nickels, dimes, or even foreign coins being minted at the same facilities during that era, meaning a 1977 quarter struck on the wrong metal or with the wrong size could exist, and such an anomaly instantly adds immense rarity to the coin. And then there are striking errors such as off-center strikes, where the coin design is not properly centered on the planchet, creating a partially blank surface that excites collectors who value how much of the design remains visible compared to how far off the strike occurred, with coins showing 50% or more off-center strikes being among the most desirable. And we cannot forget about broad strikes, where the coin is struck without the restraining collar, leading to a stretched and distorted shape, or clipped planchets where the blanks were cut incorrectly, leaving crescent-shaped clips missing from the coin. And then there are die cracks, where the minting dies themselves develop small fractures and left raised lines on the coin's surface that are viewed as unique fingerprints of the minting process. And die breaks can lead to larger blobs of metal known as cuds that collectors prize for their rarity. And the 1977 quarter has also been associated with repunched mint marks, where the D mint mark of the Denver Mint, or the absence of a mint mark for Philadelphia quarters, may have been struck multiple times slightly out of alignment, creating doubled or tripled impressions, which today are considered valuable varieties. And we must also consider the legendary full brockage errors, where a coin gets stuck to the die and impresses its reversed image onto another coin, creating a dramatic mirror-like effect that is exceedingly rare, and when applied to a 1977 quarter it creates a numismatic masterpiece unlike anything else. And of course, among all these categories of mistakes there are transitional errors, which happen when a coin is struck with the wrong metallic composition, because during the 1970s the U.S. Mint had recently moved away from silver coinage to a copper-nickel clad composition, so if even a single quarter was struck on leftover silver planchets, it would instantly become astronomically valuable because of both rarity and historical significance. And such a possibility is what fuels much of the myth and mystery surrounding certain 1977 quarters rumored to be struck in silver rather than clad. And beyond physical minting errors, there are also varieties linked to hub changes, subtle shifts in lettering thickness, or design differences between mints that specialists track carefully, and when combined with condition, grade, and provenance, these small variations can magnify value to extraordinary levels. And it is this combination of documented minting errors, rumored silver strikes, misaligned dies, off-metal planchets, and other extraordinary mistakes that contributes to why the 1977 quarter has been discussed as being worth as much as $43 million. Because when a coin embodies rarity, history, and error anomalies all at once, it becomes a unique collectible unlike any other. And in the world of high-stakes numismatics, wealthy collectors and investors compete fiercely to obtain such pieces, because they know that beyond the intrinsic metal value or face denomination, the true worth lies in the story, the scarcity, and the one-of-a-kind nature of the coin. And when this competition takes place at auctions, values skyrocket, and so when a 1977 quarter appears that contains multiple rare error features, it does not just attract average hobbyists, but the elite of the numismatic world, who are willing to pay tens of millions for ownership of what they see as a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And to fully understand why a coin like this could reach $43 million, one must appreciate the psychology of collecting, where rarity fuels desire, desire fuels bidding wars, and bidding wars create astronomical values. And history is full of such examples, like the 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle gold coin, which sold for over $18 million, or the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar, believed to be the first dollar ever struck, which reached over $10 million. And while those were not quarters, the principle remains the same, that a coin with extraordinary rarity and provenance can command world record prices. And so the 1977 quarter's reputation grows year by year as stories of unusual specimens circulate in collector communities, from tales of quarters struck on cent planchets weighing less than they should, to oversized strikes on half-dollar planchets, to highly dramatic off-centers and double dies, each fueling the idea that hidden treasures from 1977 could be lurking in collections or even in circulation. And every time such a story emerges, it reignites the frenzy and belief that one of these coins could reach tens of millions at auction. Because when supply is almost non-existent and demand is global, price becomes almost limitless. And so when we talk about this 1977 quarter worth $43 million, we are not just discussing a coin but a phenomenon, an intersection of history, chance, and human fascination with the rare and extraordinary, a reminder that even the smallest object like a $quarter coin can carry with it immense stories, incredible value, and the power to change lives. So as we continue to explore this world, always keep in mind that while most coins we handle daily are worth only their face value, sometimes hidden among them lies a piece of history so unique that it transcends money itself and becomes a treasure of art, chance, and human desire. And who knows, maybe one day you will find that special coin in your pocket change. So always keep your eyes open and your curiosity alive, because the world of numismatics proves that treasure truly exists all around us. And if you enjoyed this journey into the mysterious world of the 1977 quarter dollar, and its mind-blowing value of $43 million due to minting errors and mistakes that turned it into a priceless rarity, then make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more fascinating stories about the coins you may think are ordinary but could actually be worth a fortune waiting to be discovered. Next, the 1991 D Washington quarter, a coin that at face value is worth just 25 cents but has been rumored and estimated in certain rare cases to be worth up to an astounding $29 million because of its extremely rare errors, striking anomalies, and historical quirks that make it one of the most coveted coins ever discussed in the numismatic community. So let's embark on this long and detailed journey together, one where we will unravel the story behind this coin, its minting process, the history of the Denver Mint in 1991, and how a coin minted in such huge numbers could still produce such mysterious and valuable mistakes that capture the attention of collectors around the world. The Washington quarter has been in circulation since 1932, when it was first introduced to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and by 1991 the coin was well into its long-running series featuring the profile of the nation's first president on the obverse and the eagle with outstretched wings on the reverse. But what makes the 1991 D issue so remarkable is not simply the coin's design but the production process that year, the errors that slipped past quality control, and the astonishing values attached to those errors when they show up decades later in the hands of fortunate collectors who understand just how important even the smallest variation can be. To appreciate the significance of the 1991 D quarter, we need to set the stage by talking about the Denver Mint, a facility known for producing billions of coins each year, and in 1991 it was working at full speed to churn out quarters to meet America's circulation demands. And when such massive production occurs, the chances of mistakes also increase because dies wear out. Planchets can be improperly prepared, machines can misalign, and human oversight can miss a flaw, and it is exactly within those imperfections that hidden treasures are created. And when we speak of hidden treasures in coin collecting, we refer to the category of mint errors, varieties, and anomalies that make one coin stand out from the billions of ordinary examples. And in the case of the 1991 D quarter, the list of known and rumored errors is quite impressive. Some of the most spectacular errors involve double strikes, where a coin is struck more than once by the dies, creating overlapping images that collectors go wild for. And there are stories of 1991 D quarters showing dramatic off-center strikes where the design is shifted so much that parts of the coin are blank, and such coins, when preserved, can reach astronomical values, especially when combined with other anomalies such as clipped planchets where a portion of the coin is missing because of a misfed blank, or die cracks that produce raised lines across Washington's portrait or the eagle's wings, giving the coin a unique character. Another highly sought-after possibility involves transitional errors where a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, and there are whispers of 1991 D quarters accidentally struck on planchets meant for other denominations like nickels or dimes, or even foreign coins. And when such a mistake happens, the rarity level skyrockets because it represents a 1 in a billion mishap that escaped the mint's detection. And collectors are willing to pay fortunes for such spectacular pieces. To understand why such errors can reach values like $29 million, we have to explore the psychology of collecting itself. Because coin collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying history, rarity, and uniqueness, and when a coin represents a once-in-a-lifetime find, its value is not determined by silver content or face value but by what the market of passionate collectors and wealthy investors is willing to pay, and when competition arises between those who want to own a piece of American history, the price can climb to unbelievable heights. The 1991 D quarter is especially intriguing because 1991 was not considered a key date in the Washington quarter series. It was a relatively modern issue with billions produced, which means nobody at the time imagined that rare era versions could one day be worth millions. But that is exactly what makes the story more thrilling, because somewhere out there, hidden in circulation or tucked away in a jar of change, there could be a coin that looks ordinary until examined closely under magnification, revealing a minting blunder that transforms it from pocket change to a multi-million-dollar treasure. Let's also talk about double dies, one of the most popular errors among collectors, where the design elements are duplicated because the die itself was improperly prepared, and on a 1991 D quarter, a double die could show up in Washington's motto, "In God We Trust," in the date, or in the eagle's feathers, creating a doubled or shadowed effect that makes the coin a standout. And these varieties are cherished by error hunters who meticulously inspect every coin they encounter, hoping to uncover such a gem. Another fascinating possibility involves repunched mint marks, because in earlier decades mint marks were hand-punched onto dies and this created opportunities for doubling, misalignment, or overpunched mint marks, and while by 1991 the process was more automated, unusual variations still occasionally surfaced, and a 1991 D quarter with an anomalous mint mark could spark great excitement. We also have to consider the role of die deterioration, where worn dies create coins with extra thickness, doubling-like effects, or die chips that look like odd extra features on Washington's head or the eagle's design, and collectors love nicknames for these varieties like the "cud" error when a large die break fills in part of the design, and when such an error is dramatic and rare enough, it can elevate a coin's value exponentially. Now let us imagine a hypothetical scenario of a 1991 D quarter with a combination of multiple errors, say a dramatic off-center strike with a double strike and a visible die crack across Washington's portrait, all preserved in mint state condition, untouched by circulation, and suddenly we can see why such a coin could be considered priceless by some collectors. Because it represents not only one error but a cascade of mistakes frozen forever in metal, a rare survivor of the minting process that tells a story of imperfection in an otherwise perfectly engineered system, and such stories are what drive collectors to pay staggering sums. When we analyze the rumored $29 million value, it is not just about one documented sale but about the speculative frenzy that rare era coins can generate. Because in auctions across the world we have seen coins with seemingly small errors fetch hundreds of thousands or even millions, and when a particular coin becomes legendary in numismatic circles, its fame alone can drive up its value. As wealthy collectors compete for ownership of something no one else can ever have. It is also important to place the 1991 D quarter within the broader context of the 1990s coinage, because this was a transitional era before the launch of the state quarters program in 1999, and at the time the Washington quarter series was considered somewhat ordinary, yet this ordinariness actually adds to the thrill of finding errors, because nobody expects them, and when they do appear, they stand out even more. Many collectors have told stories of finding unusual 1991 D quarters in rolls of coins from banks, in loose change, or in inherited collections, and every discovery fuels the legend that somewhere out there lies a fortune waiting to be uncovered, and this ongoing treasure hunt keeps interest in era coins alive year after year. Now let's explore the idea of condition and grading, because even the rarest error will not command top dollar unless it is preserved in pristine condition, and this is where third-party grading services like PCGS and NGC come into play, as they authenticate, grade, and encapsulate coins, giving collectors confidence in what they are buying. And a 1991 decoder with a spectacular error graded as mint state or higher would instantly become a trophy piece in the numismatic world, attracting not only collectors but investors looking for tangible assets that appreciate over time. The mystique of coins like the 1991 decoder also ties into the human fascination with rarity, because people are drawn to the idea that something so common as pocket change can hold a secret fortune, and this romantic idea has fueled countless treasure hunts, metal detecting adventures, and late-night coin rolls searches, as ordinary people hope to stumble upon an extraordinary piece of history. And the fact that one coin can change someone's life financially adds a magical dimension to the hobby. It is also worth noting that rumors and stories play a huge role in the perception of value, because while not every claim of a multi-million-dollar quarter is backed by a documented sale, the buzz created by these stories increases interest, awareness, and ultimately the desirability of coins from certain dates like the 1991 D, making it a self-reinforcing cycle where rarity leads to attention. Attention leads to demand, and demand pushes value ever higher. Last, today we dive into one of the most fascinating and surprising stories in the world of coin collecting, a tale that involves a small, everyday piece of change that most people overlook but that in rare circumstances has turned out to be worth millions. And we are talking about the 1990 D $quarter coin. A coin that has stunned collectors and enthusiasts because of its connection to extremely rare errors and mistakes that elevate its value to unbelievable heights, with some specimens rumored to be worth as much as $21 million. And in this journey we are going to explore why this quarter, minted in Denver in 1990, has captured so much attention, what specific features and errors make it unique, how these mistakes could have occurred during the minting process, the possibilities that coin enthusiasts and experts have discussed over the years, and why such a coin has become legendary in numismatic circles. So let's start from the beginning by considering what a quarter is supposed to be. The 1990 $quarter was struck as part of the standard Washington quarter series, featuring the bust of George Washington on the obverse with the mintmark D beneath the motto, and on the reverse the iconic eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows, designed by John Flanagan, and for the majority of quarters minted in that year nothing unusual occurred. Millions of coins rolled off the Denver presses and went into circulation, serving the daily purposes of Americans paying for goods and services. But among those millions a few coins emerged with incredible mistakes that transformed ordinary base metal into something more akin to a treasure, and that is where our story begins, because coin errors come in many forms including double strikes, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, die cracks, misaligned dies, missing details, and even cases where an incorrect planchet from another denomination is used accidentally, and the 1990 D $quarter has shown examples of all of these, sometimes in extreme forms, making them highly desirable, and when rarity meets demand, astronomical values emerge. And one reason the 1990 D $quarter has become so famous is that collectors discovered quarters with dramatic double dies on the obverse, where Washington's profile and the lettering appeared doubled to the naked eye, giving the coin a surreal, almost ghostly appearance. And when experts authenticated these double die quarters they realized how few existed, turning them into must-have pieces for elite collectors. And then there are the off-center strikes where the entire design is shifted dramatically, sometimes leaving part of the coin blank, which not only makes it visually striking but also confirms it escaped mint quality control, and such striking errors in high grade can fetch enormous prices at auction. But beyond these there are also coins struck on the wrong planchets. For example, a quarter design pressed onto a nickel or penny blank, which results in a smaller or lighter quarter that immediately looks strange, and collectors pay huge sums for these anomalies, especially when they can be traced to specific mints like Denver in 1990. And then we must consider die cracks, which happen when the die used to strike the coin develops fractures and those cracks imprint onto the metal, leaving raised lines or breaks in the design. And some 1990 quarters have spectacular die cracks running across Washington's portrait or the eagle, giving them unique appearances that no other coin shares, almost like a fingerprint. And then there are broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin spreads beyond its normal size, producing a stretched-looking quarter that is rare and valuable. And when you put all of these possibilities together, you start to see why this coin has become legendary. Because while most 1990 quarters are worth only face value, a tiny handful with extreme errors are treated like holy grails, selling for amounts so staggering they sound unreal, with rumors of at least one 1990 quarter changing hands for around $21 million because of a perfect storm of conditions, an ultra-rare mint error, pristine preservation, and a bidding war among collectors who refuse to back down. And though some skeptics dismiss such stories as myths, the truth is that in the world of rare collectibles anything is possible. And when billionaires and museums get involved, the sky is the limit, and beyond these dramatic stories, the fascination lies in the process itself. Because when you hold a coin like this, you are not just holding a piece of money, you are holding a piece of history, a tangible artifact of human error that survived against all odds. And collectors are drawn to that combination of rarity, beauty, and imperfection, for errors represent something that should not exist but does, making them infinitely more interesting than flawless coins. And to truly understand how a 1990 quarter could be worth so much, you have to imagine the excitement of a collector finding one in pocket change, flipping it over and realizing something is wrong, the design off-center, the doubling obvious, or the weight not quite right, and then sending it off for grading only to learn it is a genuine mint error of extraordinary rarity. And the thrill of that discovery is what drives the entire hobby, because anyone, anywhere, could potentially stumble upon such a treasure. And so the 1990 quarter stands as a symbol of possibility, proof that even the most ordinary object can become extraordinary under the right circumstances. And the numismatic community continues to analyze known specimens, comparing varieties, cataloging the errors, and trying to trace how such mistakes could have occurred in Denver in 1990, with theories ranging from mechanical failures to human oversight to planchet mixes during a production run, and each theory adds another layer to the mystery. But what is certain is that these coins exist, that they are highly coveted, and that their value continues to climb. And as more collectors enter the market and competition increases, the few surviving specimens become even more desirable, fueling bidding wars that push prices higher. And so when you hear of a coin like this selling for $21 million, it may sound unbelievable. But within the context of numismatics and rare collectibles, it makes sense, because value is ultimately determined by what someone is willing to pay, and for the right coin, with the right story, the right rarity, and the right buyers, there is truly no limit. And this is why the 1990 quarter has achieved almost mythical status, becoming a legend whispered about in collecting circles, a coin that reminds us all to look a little closer at the change in our pockets, to never assume something is ordinary just because it looks familiar. Because hidden within those coins might be a fortune waiting to be discovered. And as we conclude this deep exploration of the 1990 quarter worth $21 million because of its rare and dramatic errors, I invite you to continue this journey with us. Stay curious, keep searching, and who knows, maybe one day you will be the lucky one to find a coin that changes your life forever. So if you enjoyed this incredible story and want to hear more about rare coins, hidden treasures, and the mysteries of money, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us next time for another amazing adventure into the fascinating world of numismatics.